Thus far, we've been treating our machine learning models as a black box. Now we're going to talk in detail about how we actually build these models. So you've seen this before where for the supervised analysis, we took the examples, the features, and the labels. We used those to create a model which we could then use to classify new examples that we had. In this case, we have an x dimension, which would be feature 1, and a y dimension, which would be feature 2. And each point is an example. So every point is an example, and its position along these two dimensions is defined by a pair of features. The specific algorithm that we're going to talk about in this class for supervised learning is called support vector machines, or SVM for short. Despite the intimidating name, SVM is a really intuitive algorithm, and it solves the problem of classifying samples much the same way you would if you were addressing the same problem. So because it's a supervised algorithm, we're going to start with labeled groups. And so in this case, our groups are labeled either orange or blue. And the problem that we're trying to solve is if we have a new point, so in here this point in white that's unlabeled, we want to know whether it should be blue or whether it should be orange. We can apply an SVM to make a prediction for us. Intuitively, you might have a grasp on whether this point should be blue or whether this point should be orange. And I would argue that this point could easily be orange. For example, if you decided to put a line here, this line perfectly separates all of the orange points from all of the blue points. So this line perfectly classifies the data that we have, and it suggests that this point should be orange. You might have instinctively sort of jumped back at that though, because you might argue that you could also put a line here, and this line also perfectly separates the orange and the blue points. So what do we do in this case? Well, the support vector machine approach has a really simple answer for us. We want to put the line in the place that it maximizes the separation between the examples that are correctly classified. In this case, we maximize the distance between the line and the correctly classified orange samples as well as the correctly classified blue samples. Then we take everything on the bottom part of this line and we say that that's orange because it's on the orange side of the line. Everything on the top part becomes blue because that's on the blue side of the line. And so consequently, our point that we were wondering about, according to support vector machines, would be predicted as a blue point. And so, despite the really intimidating name, support vector machines is really an intuitive algorithm. It approaches the problem of classification in much the same way a human would. It's pretty easy for a human to take a look at two dimensions and separate these points. In most computational approaches that we'll be talking about, the challenge will be to work in 20 or 30,000 dimensions. And so in that case, it's really handy to have the computer build the classifier for you, although it's very helpful to understand exactly what type of classifier it's building.